Lady, that's not a word. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our esteemed guest of the Terminator 30th Anniversary Union Panel! Give a round of applause!
Well, there are a lot of us.
You can sit in my lap. I'll sit here. Much shorter than everybody else.
Sorry, you guys are going to have to share the mic, but something gives me the impression that you're all very close. So first question, you know, especially for Linda and Michael, making this first film 30 years ago, I mean, was there any indication, even deep down, that this would go on to become this entire beloved franchise and live on in TV and comic books and video games and theme park rides and still be going now? I mean, or is it just like, we're making this one film? And...
No clue at all, but that's kind of my middle name. No clue. No.
Well, first of all, I don't even think, back when we were doing that, yeah, they were doing sequels, because the Karate Kid 2 was being made. I mean, you laugh at that, but people think about the Terminator 1 as being this massive, like, hit, but it really wasn't, per se. I mean, it did well. It was made for about $6.5 million, and it made 40. So, I mean, that was a really good, you know, for the investors. But actually, that same year, Karate Kid 2 was among a number of films that made a lot more. Karate Kid 2 made double the amount, $90 million. So it was not a movie that was a huge hit at the box office. I believe that because of, not DVD, what came before DVD?
Betamax?
No, VHS. Because of VHS, it was coming out right about the time that the Terminator came out. That's where most people saw the movie. And I'm also asked about whether I thought, you know, it was going to be this massive hit and everything. And I always say that my agent called me up and said that they wanted me to go in and meet Jim Cameron. And I said, okay, and send me the script. And so I said, who is Jim Cameron? And they said, well, he works for Roger Corman. And I said, oh, okay, Roger Corman at that time was kind of known for making really low-budget movies. And he did a movie, but he was fired off of it. And I said, okay, well, who's producing it? Gail Hurd. What does she do? She works for Roger Corman. I said, okay. She got fired off Pinder too, also. And I said, okay, well, who's anybody else in it? And they said, yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it. And you got to remember, at the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger was not a huge star at all. You know, he had done Conan the Barbarian, and that was it. And, you know, nobody gave him a chance. Nobody gave him a chance for ever being a movie star. And to his credit, he not only became a movie star, he married Kennedy and went on to become governor and so on and so forth. But at the time, when I would talk to my friends who were actors, and they would say, what are you doing? And I'm doing a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. They'd go, ooh. And then I finally asked before I read the script, well, what's it about? and I was told it was about a man that was coming back from the future and was being chased by a Terminator, and he was trying to get to a girl that worked at Bob's Big Boy, and I was like, fuck, man, this is going to be a piece of shit. I hope I get paid well. Sorry to take up so much time.
No, that's all right. Just to jump in, if you guys do have questions, let's just kind of start lining up right here, and we'll keep this orderly. So now, 30 years later since the first film, what's it like to see it live on and even be a part of it in the later sequels and in Sarah Connor Chronicles and Terminator Salvation and now Terminator Genesis? What is that like to see it and you guys keep up with it as it progresses?
Well, it's funny because you can fill a room up with Sarah Connors today, all the ones that played at Universal Studios, at the ride, and it's just kind of a thrill to go, yeah, I'm Sarah Connor too. So I call myself vintage Sarah Connor.
Have been played by more actors than anybody else. So what's that like to see a younger Kyle Reese and a younger Sarah Connor and all these different Sarah Connors and Kyle Reeses at different times in the future and past? Is it weird, or do you,
I don't carry any sort of judgment. It's like whoever wants to take that legacy and go on with it, good luck to them. I played parts that other actresses had played before, and that's just the worst pressure of all time. I did a play once that was based on Laura, the film that Gene Tierney won an Academy Award for, and it had originally been a play, and I did this play, and every single review was like, she's no Gene Tierney. That's like the best you can get when you're following in someone else's footsteps. So I always think it's an act of courage to try to do something that someone else has done, and God bless them.
Fill his boots, yeah. Absolutely. Robert, you, in my opinion, I don't think anybody will disagree, play one of the top 10 villains on screen of all time. Top five. All right, I'll go with top five. Top five. I'd love to hear about your performance. I heard that you kind of based a lot of your movements on animal. Whoa, hey, calm down there. The way that bald eagles move their head and the way that sharks swim around people. Talk about the process of kind of coming up with the T-1000.
Wow, that's a long answer.
We got time. Just
Okay.
go for it. All right.
Well, first off, to get the opportunity to do a movie with these guys and the Terminator franchise was a pretty daunting task. And originally, James Cameron, they brought me in for an audition, and they said you got to create an intense presence. And I hadn't read the script, and so I got in the room with Steve Quayle and just started ad-libbing on and improvising on that kind of theme, not really knowing what I was playing yet. And for some reason, everything I was doing was exactly what they were looking for. So I was doing like sense memory stuff, and I was playing like I was an American Indian, like tracking and feeling and just what would that be like. And I just riffed on that for basically an afternoon. And got a call that night saying James Cameron had responded to what I had done, and would I come back and do it all again? And I did the same thing and just kept going with that. And it's all stuff we do in acting workshops and things like that. And then I think the third day I actually read the script, and that's when the pressure hit. And I almost choked during the screen test, and I had to do the whole knock at the door with John Connor. You've seen, all that dialogue. And man, the pressure was on. It took me 5 hours to read the script. And I just remember reading it taking breaks, trying to visualize what was going on, and that's what we did. And Jim basically encouraged me to continue my thought process with it. Be a sponge was what he said. You know, like try to absorb predators and the way they move and all that kind of stuff. So that was, you know, basically the performance. Jeanette and I had a long discussion about that because she plays the T-1000 at one point, and all the actors that did, we discussed those ideas, and it's really cool. I saw the movie Monday night. They had a screening at the ArcLight in Hollywood, and I saw it for the first time in a long time. And it's cool to see how it's really consistent.
Yeah.
The T-1000 though is a real collaborative effort. There's Stan Winston's animatronics. There's the ILM, the Dennis Murin, and each Stan's guys in Industrial Light and Magic, they all discussed the character with me, and we all were very consistent on the thought process of the character. So it's really a collaboration, and I'm just really fortunate that James wanted me to be the face for the character. So it's a big collaboration.
Yeah, and then you...
And Linda also played the T-1000 at one point, and she was phenomenal.
That's good.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you a question.
Oh.
I believe you told me after we had finished that you were working on Praying Mantis.
Yes.
But I see Praying Mantis.
Yeah.
That's what you told me.
You are the Praying Mantis of all time. I mean,
Well, it's funny because when you do, there was a guy I started doing a martial arts thing real quick with this guy. It was Wushu and his thing was Praying Mantis, and that's where that kind of, I hadn't actually thought of that. That's where that kind of came from the martial arts training. And it was
so
fun.
esoteric. We're such a bunch of actors up here talking about praying mantises. You know, I worked with a mind coach.
Yeah.
And that's what Jonathan Mosta actually recommended. We did lots of other training. I did Krav Maga, I did weapons, I did weight training. I completely changed my body type. I put on 15 pounds of muscle mass. And then we had the icing on the cake, which was really this mind coach and working with different energies and the energies coming off of the different structures and things we were feeling, whether it was soft or hard or iron. And the difference that I wanted for TX was that it's a female, obviously, and I wanted her to have some feminine qualities that could be related to in a humanistic way, so that even when I'm killing children at point blank range, you can somehow identify with her.
I think we all can.
There's a couple moments where she's tasting the blood or she's looking in the mirror that you're like, oh, maybe it's a woman. And then I had a fan say something really interesting. I don't know if he's in this room right now, to me earlier today, and he said, well, if you go by the Terminator kind of anthology in history, which even to me is very confusing, a human created the Terminators, so there are actual human qualities in the Terminator itself. And I was like, I didn't think of that one, but that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, but Robert was an inspiration, and he still is. Every time I see his beautiful face.
Oh, yeah.
So sweet.
I would love to hear from all you guys on this. Obviously, I think we're now kind of even closer than we ever have been to kind of that world, which scares the shit out of me. And was the thing that really made it...
The cockroach of the films, you know. I sort of am a Luddite. The technology is one of those things that I think should be serving man, and I think that they're now becoming servants to it.
Yeah.
And when I read the film, I mean, as an actor, it was. I thought the film was really well constructed, Terminator 1.
Yeah.
And I said that to Jim. I said, win or lose, I'm here to read for you, Jim. And if I can get the part, great. And if I don't, well, hey, good luck anyway. I said, but it is, if you shoot what's on the page, you're going to get this enormous hit. And he said, you want to see the storyboards? And he showed me some of the storyboards. And I said, hold on, Jim. He said, I haven't got a budget that'll allow me to go ahead and, improvise a lot of stuff. So we talked about what he wanted, and I gave him a couple of scenes that I read there with that preparation in mind. And lo and behold, I got cast. Well, as you're doing it, you kind of get isolated because all you're concerned about is your scenes coming in, canceled watches on the things, This year, because of all the stuff that happened around Christmas time with Target Neiman Marcus, a few other places. It's like, I don't know where to use my card that's safe, so I'm paying cash. I go down to my bank, I figure what I'm going to need for the week. I get it. If I order something, I write a check, and I send it to them. I order nothing off of the internet. I do not have a cell phone. I do not have internet connection, nor will I ever have one. And when
It starts with Target, ends with Skynet. One's a circle, one's a triangle. They're not that far apart.
why do they want to data mine so they know what we want, what we like, what we think we like, what we might buy, what we will buy, what we do buy, what we eat, what we sleep? All this stuff, they're trapped all the time. That scares the hell out of me. It really does. So I'm really kind of an anti-electronics guy. I like watching the television. I don't want internet. I don't want a streaming video coming in. If I want to buy something or rent it, I can go to the library or I can buy it. And if it's not available, gosh, I'll go to my grave without ever seeing that.
That's the reason that you stayed alive in the films and everybody else died. In the future war, you're gonna be on top, like, yeah, I told you, no internet!
That's my personal thing. I'm a caveman and proud of it.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, keep it up for our moderator. You're doing a stellar job.
Stop it. Anybody else want to talk about how this stuff scares the shit out of them?
Well, as someone of that generation too, I can just remember, forget about internet. I mean, the whole idea of like someday being on the phone and being able to see who you're talking to.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking how completely unrealistic that was and how that would never happen. And I mean, just the smallest little things. And here they are, just taken for granted now. The FaceTime, the Skyping.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things. When the first film came out, it was all about. It was the 80s, so technology was really just emerging, and it was the first kind of decade where it had advanced so quickly, and that's really what the theme of the first Terminator is, and then the second Terminator. And I think that's why, going back to what we were talking about, it's still evolving, and it's still around, and it's still in pop culture, because it feels really connected to where we're headed, whether it's art imitating life or the other way around.
There's all this talk about technology. At the same time, last night, actually, I saw something on the news. It was just passing, but it's medical technology.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are basically making, hearts, heart valves, all different parts of the body. And they're using, I saw something on 60 Minutes, where they basically have a guy who's got a prosthetic arm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen that before, but basically his brain, there's no computer that's connected to the arm, it's just his brain. And he can get this prosthetic arm to move and pick up things.
Yeah.
And if he's blinded, he can tell the difference with a steel, prosthetic arm, the difference between an orange and a tennis ball. And so now they're building all these different parts for our body, and it's going to be, I think, very shortly, I think the brain is the only thing that I'm going to be able to understand, and I think that's might be our saving grace in the end.
Yeah.
And probably we will destroy ourselves before we destroy ourselves.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, there's a whole immortality project that's being developed right now.
Yeah.
This guy Walter O'Brien, the Scorpion Industries, is developing it. It's where they're going to be able to take everything that makes you and put it on one of these chips, and pretty soon you're just going to take that chip and put it into a new body version of yourself that you get every 10 years, because they're cloning it, and then they're basically saying it's going to get away from. There's no need for health care, because your body's going to be, a brand new body every 10 years. And they're supposed to have this thing ready by 2045. It's called the Immortality Project. This guy, Walter O'Brien. Yeah, it's pretty badass.
Sounds like a good movie.
It sounds like a good movie. Yeah, I think somebody already made
The
it.
reason I know so much about this is,
Yeah, you're right.
there's a project involved. But it's pretty scary when you see, literally seeing the movie Monday, that was the thing I walked away from was, oh my God, this is really where we are headed.
Yes.
It's very scary, it's very daunting to really think about it because Cyberdyne Systems became aware, you know, I mean, it's happening.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah. Here, actually, here's how we'll do this. If you have a question, just go ahead and line up right here, and we'll kind of do it orderly.
Up here?
There, yeah, just right there.
I'll talk loud so people can
Here,
hear
hold
you
on,
over
I'll come
there.
down.
Okay.
Two things really quick. I knew I was heterosexual 30 years ago because of Michael being... Questions for Linda Hamilton. It was really nice to see you appear in the last 2 seasons of Lost Girl. Hopefully we'll see you next season as a Valkyrie.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to say kudos as a young kid. The only 2 women who kicked ass back then was Sigourney Weaver and Aliens. And Michael, of course, you were in the second one. Awesome in that. Could you talk a little bit though about your Terminator role? You were 20-something. Your character was like this 20-something, enjoying single life kind of gal, and then it flipped a switch. Could you talk a little bit about that character and how it pulled in from your real life at the time? Because you didn't really have a whole lot to pull from.
No, the first one, you know, it was very well constructed, so, you know, it wasn't just all of this or all of that. It was a great character who got to transform from, you know, very little of this to a lot of that. And I loved the moments where I got to actually, you know, the on-your-feet soldier was just such a defining moment for me where, you know, the girl's got nothing to count on and just has to stand her man up and get him to, you know, save her again, and, you know, in that act kind of, you know, brings him along and everything kind of turns over for those 2 characters, and I love that. I was a young actress. I mean, I'd worked a bit, but, you know, I'm on some level doing the first Terminator. That one crushed me a little bit. You know, she's a character who went through so much loss of mother, of roommates, of lover. Do you know what I mean? And I remember lying on that gurney. They strapped me to that gurney and then went off and did something else for like 3 hours. And I laid there and cried. I mean, just sort of, I don't mean hysterically or dramatically, but, you know, I just needed to release all this pain and loss. And I dreamt about the Terminator for about 6 months after that. Like, he was at my parents' house. You know, he was everywhere for a while because it's really hard to kind of build that sort of thing. And as a young actress, not really know how to protect yourself from all that loss. So, that said, moving on to the second one, I knew very much what I had to do when the character came back, and knew certainly that if she'd been living with that knowledge, she would be effing crazy 7 years later. And when Jim said we're going to do it again, I was like, make her effing crazy. We were, you know, we collaborated there because I just knew that's where we had to go with her. And crazy enough that, you know, nothing's gonna get her, you know what I mean? Like with such armor, not necessarily good stuff, but just a lot of armor to see her through. And it was a very satisfying character arc to play. I didn't really feel like I needed to go and do the third one because it just seemed like, you know, we did this wonderful beginning to end, and I closed the circle for myself. And thought, you know, I'm pretty incorruptible here. The third one, you know, I didn't want the payday. I didn't want anything more than, you know, if it didn't add to that great storyline and character, I wasn't interested, and it didn't, and so I didn't do it. And I'm very satisfied, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I thought was so cool is Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 are really the only example of a film I can think where the character in the first film has a completely different arc in the second film. Like, you entered a waitress and left a badass. Like, it was just really amazing, and to see you play both sides of that, and to kind of see the journey for you as an actress was, I mean, it was so cool. I would love to see like a female Expendables with you and Sigourney and you. I feel like that's what we need. We need like a female Expendables.
As long as Asylum Pictures, the people that make Sharknado, aren't doing it. They actually said to me that they were, I guess we're on record here, but you know, they were like, we're gonna do a female version of the Expendables. I was doing this piece of crap for them. And I didn't realize how much of a piece of crap it was until they changed the name to Bermuda Tentacles.
And Linda, I just did that movie with them.
Just watch that.
The one that they offered you, I did it.
Oh, you did? And when I left Bermuda Tentacles, they were like, we're gonna do a female Expendables. So I was like, I'm thinking, not on your
Actually, I have to say, in their defense, we had a pretty cool cast. It was myself, it was Brigitte Nielsen, it was Vivica Fox, and the top woman going right now, Zoe Bell. But we didn't miss Linda Hamilton. And Linda, I'm gonna have to talk to you later because I still don't know how to let go of those crazy characters. So we'll have to chat.
You know, another thing too is I believe that that company was just bought for $500 million. Yeah.
See, and I gotta show you, you were like a movie mom to me, and so this is just like a really cool honor to be up here with you. So, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
First, the gushing. You guys are all fantastic. You really are. I just watched you die again last night.
Which film?
T2. T2. Although, yes, you have seen you die in other ones. You're all just the best, all of you. I have a question for you. Uh-oh. Yes. When you were in the silver, when you'd lose your costume as a cop, did that change any of the way you act? How did they do that with you inside, or was it all just CGI back then, or?
Yeah, it was all CGI. They, when I got cast, I got on a plane with Stan Winston and flew up to Monterey, where Industrial Light and Magic is, and I think I went through, they painted these squares on me, and made a 360 model of me, and they filmed me running and walking, and you know, we developed all that right there, and they loaded that all into the computer, and then I guess when we filmed those sequences, everything was performance motivated, and I had to kind of match what was pre-existing and then kind of overlay it somehow. I don't even know how to describe it, but I will say this. At one point, Jim said, by the way, he's the common denominator with Terminator and Terminator 1, besides Linda and Michael. I mean, you know, he's the man, you know. I mean, those movies are so great because of him. And I remember at one point he said, you know, we're making movie magic here. I mean, movie history here. This is really historic what we're doing, because it was really hard. It was quite frustrating. It was kind of like acting under a microscope, and I would kind of lose my patience after a while, and I have to try to kind of keep it cool because we do it over and over and over and over. And it's like you're a quarter of an inch off, you're an eighth of an inch off, you know, stuff like that.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a little frustrating.
Wow.
But it was, you know, it's obviously worth it. And I don't understand what they did or how they did it.
It was brilliant when you do the transition like the rig. Okay,
Right.
the big rig blows up, you're walking out of it, and you're silver, and then you change right back into the costume. But your stance is so great.
Well,
as
that's
you're
the performance, it's all that stuff. I mean, it's a very physical performance. And that was the thing that we just had to make consistent so it would work.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope I answered it.
Yes.
I want to ask Peter a question, because he hasn't gotten to say anything, and I feel like his career is based on being the guy that they send in to do the hard stuff. So, I mean, you were Arnold's stunt double, and I mean, I had to write them all down. Terminator 2, Terminator Commando, Predator, Running Man, Twins, Total Recall, Kindergarten Cop, Last Action Hero, True Lies, Eraser, and Jingle All the Way! Just talk about your experience of being Arnold's stunt double, and then maybe like what your favorite stunt in Terminator 2. That was you on the bike, right? Into the LA River. Yeah, so just talk about, because a lot of what still makes Terminator 2 hold up when other movies that just came out last weekend already look dated is all the stunts and the practical effects and things like that. So yeah, I would just love to hear you talk about that stuff.
Give me the microphone. Well, thank you first. Yes, I didn't know that when I did the first film, which was actually my first film in Hollywood, was working with these folks on Terminator. And I can very clearly remember the very first day walking to set and meeting them all, and Arnold took one look at me as I walked up and he said, "Ah, you're too tall." And I assumed at that moment I was out of work, and I just turned around, and he actually walked up and grabbed me and said, "Yeah, I'm just kidding with you. Have a cigar." And but to address your question about the stunts, I can kind of paraphrase it in one statement. I have a clip of all the stuff I've ever done as doubling Arnold, and there's a piece in there of my truck transfer that I did in T2, that whole chase sequence. And as you know, T2 is basically one long chase sequence interspersed with some dialogue scenes. That's the way I view it. From an acting perspective, that's really kind of what it is. Right? It's like shoot, shoot, bang, bang, smash, run, and then blah, blah, blah. And in stunts we say, sorry, fuck the dialogue, let's wreck something. So, anyway, I'm watching, there was in the making of, James Cameron is actually voicing over the piece where I did the truck transfer. And to understand the truck transfer, we married those two trucks together, the little truck and the big truck. And as we did that, the little truck was shinnying like mad, and I had to get out of the little truck with a loaded weapon, run across the bed, climb onto the hood, blow the windshield out, jump to the side. All of that sequence is all pretty much in one. And at 60 miles an hour was the final speed we got that to mate up, because the truck was shinnying so bad. Couldn't do it on a wire, because if I fell, I would get sucked under the big rig, so it was all freehand. And as Jim said in the voiceover, he said, "I would never do this practically again. It was far too dangerous." And I didn't hear that, of course, until well after the movie. What? Well, now you tell me. But I can tell you this, I remember doing the rehearsals for that night. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And Jim said, "You know what, we set it up," and then he said, "Peter, if you pull this off, you'll get the brass balls aboard." And then he said, "Okay, we're gonna break for lunch." And I said, "Jim, I'm really anxious right now, and I'm thinking I might possibly die. Do you mind if we get this right now?" And he called Grace for 300 crew and cast to allow me to do the gag and get it out of the way. And I remember the first take of doing that run up the hood and just laying on my back after firing the weapon and drumming my heels on the hood and screaming because I was still alive. So, you know, and so anyway, to say I have done a lot of the gags that I did with Arnold, as you said, were practical gags. A lot of it's done now with CG and process plating and green screen. So a lot of the stuff that I did back in the day, like Last Action Hero, going a 20-story wire drop down the side of the Long Beach Hilton and stuff, they just really don't do it that much anymore. So I'm happy to be alive, and they put me in the Hall of Fame for it, so I'm very grateful.
This past week, but I just watched it again this morning, and it's funny that you talked about that because the speed in which you do that had never stuck out to me before for some reason, and just the way that it's just it's almost muscle memory. You throw the gun, you're up, you're over it, and so yeah, another round of applause. I mean,
Jim, actually, we did 2 takes of that transfer, that's all it took. And the first one, he stopped and he said cut, and then he came up to me and he said to me, he goes, "Can you slow it down a little bit across the back of the pickup truck because you're like a jackrabbit?" And I said, "Jim, the the box of the pickup truck is the fucking kill zone. I'm not gonna stand here and wave at you. I'm trying to get to the big rig because that's safety on the other side. So whatever, if you want to slow it down and post or whatever you want to do, I'm just getting there.
As a teenager, I used to ride the bus to school, and instead of listening to music on my Walkman, I would listen to the film on cassette.
That's awesome. Like the actual dialogue from the movie.
Film, so I know it. I know it from memory. I don't even have to watch it. I know what scene and everything that's going on. And I think I talked to you about it in Laredo when you came to visit. My question for all of you is: do you all have a favorite scene in both the first and the second film? A favorite scene of your
My favorite scene was the love scene.
Just two. They did it so quick, like Peter Stunt. It's crazy.
Yeah, Jim had to ask us to slow it down.
Do the rest of you have a favorite scene of the film? Of any of the things? Of your own? Like one of your own scenes?
Well, I mean, I can't really, from my film?
Yeah.
I have to say that the most challenging scene was the particle accelerator, where I get magnetized to that, particle accelerator. And it was in a harness, and it was in a very compromising position, and I had, the training was so excessive in itself, learning to sprint in heels. I wore 3-inch heels and Arnold wore boots, and we ended up being about the same height. So the training to get to that place of flexibility and dangling ability, if that's a word, and the bruisability that came from it was something I'll never forget. I didn't think my skin could actually turn that purple. And I remember training with my Krav Maga coach at the UCLA campus to sprint in heels. And this guy, one of the students jocked up to me, and he would just look down and he looked up and he was like, "Man, your coach is cold." He sprints in heels.
I was always happy that Jim would let me get away with some of the comedy that I was able to put into the thing. I mean, some of it's written in, but some of it I would go ahead and kind of figure out a way to make a laugh. Because I always think that laughs are very important in serious stuff. And to his credit, there was one thing I kept trying to do, and I don't remember. It was when Linda was escaping, the night that she escapes there on 2. And I kept trying to get this reading or this something, this piece of business, and Jim said, "Don't do that, Ron. Don't do that on that line." So I said, "Okay." So the next time we did a take, I tried the next line, because it would fit there too. And he said, "Don't do it there." So finally, he came up to me and he says, "Look, you can keep doing it, but I'm not going to print it. If I print it, I'm not going to use it. I'll be on him or her or it or whatever." He said, "But I'm not going to do it. So no. I said, "I just think we could use a laugh." He said, "You've had enough laughs. I'll let you have enough laughs." And I said, "Well, I'm a cheap baggy pants comic. For the writer to come through the bars," he said, "What do you have in your mouth there?" I said, "Well, it was the hypodermic, the needle thing. You take off that little protective cap they have." And I said, "I didn't spit it out. I didn't want anybody to slip and fall on it." So I said, "Just kept it out of nervousness. And I think it looks all right." And he said, "Oh yeah, it looks fine." He said, "So it isn't a cigarette?" I said, "No, it's this protective cap." He said, "Okay, now you get your cheap baggy pants comic. But when it comes to the bars, you can let it drop." And I said, "Thank you." Not only for action and so forth, but he's a very thoughtful man that does understand people, loves actors. Also, he hates them sometimes because we're a little bit of a problem for him. But he is a wonderful director, and he will tell you what to do that's just right, and sometimes just say, "No, you don't need that. Just remember what you said to me about the banality of evil. Don't play into it. Just be this efficient guy who's going to show this eviction, practically paralyze his leg, that you're the boss, you know. So when you give instructions, you don't have to do a, you know, you can just say it very calmly, very coldly, very coolly. Let that mean guard just do the shit. You know, and he really is that, he really understands that. He's a great director. I'm privileged to work with him a couple of times.
Jeanette, I bet you have some good Jim Cameron stories, having worked on both T2 and Aliens, which I don't know if you guys have to come to the Aliens panel later. I can't wait to hear all of your stories. Yeah, do you have any fun Jim Cameron stories from T2? I mean, you're seeing where you're just on camera and you just slowly go like that is like one of the most like, I was so afraid to ever have foster parents just because of you. Or any of my friends that had foster parents, I was like, just stay away from them, like they're dangerous. Yeah, how's Wolfie?
Yeah, exactly. He's just fine.
Oh my god, terrible.
No, it was strange because after I did Aliens, you know, Jim would call me and say, you know, how's it going? You know, because I moved back to Hollywood. You know, how are the auditions? How's it going? And I said, you know, well, they're only kind of seeing me for badass Marines, Mexican maids.
It's weird. They want me to wear a bandana.
They want me to wear a bandana, and he's like, you know, what? You're so sweet, and you're a mom, and don't they know, you know, you're a character? I was like, so he said, okay, I'm gonna give you a mom. And not exactly a sweet mom. And no, I worked with Robert on the praying mantis thing, but you know, the kind of it's that kind of autopilot you are, you know, when you're a mom and you've told them over and over 100 times, you know, don't bother me when I'm on the phone, and you know, it's just, you know, take care of it, don't drink out of the milk carton. So there was, you know, the touch of the robot, the T1000, but also the touch of the just fed up wife, you know.
It's so awesome. It's just funny to hear all these stories because it could have been in such a different film at one point. I remember hearing that originally O.J. Simpson was supposed to play the Terminator, which like actually was a real thing. They had posters, and then there's like a fun thing where original idea was that Michael would play the T1000 and they would do a role reversal. Was that true? Was there truth to that at all?
Not that I know of.
Really? Huh.
I certainly never heard that from Jim.
Yeah.
I've never really heard that from anybody substantial.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
I never heard that, but I did hear originally it was. This is bad to say. It was originally Billy Idol was going to be the T1000.
The T1000?
Yeah, I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus or anything, but originally he was cast, and I don't know what happened.
Thank God.
No, really? Seriously?
That's
no,
crazy.
heard that.
Jennifer Jason Leigh almost got Sarah Connor.
No way.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thank you.
All right, my question is for Earl Bowen. Now, this would probably be more appropriate for the writers, but since they're not here, I'll ask you since it's about your character. Now, in the original Terminator, Dr. Silberman was a psychologist, a criminal psychologist at the police station, but then in T2, you were Sarah's doctor at the state mental hospital, and you were prescribing medications. Now, the thing that was confusing about that to me is that psychologists cannot prescribe medications only. Psychiatrists
It's had a long time to think about this.
do you know what the explanation for that discrepancy?
You know, I don't pay attention to those things. It's whatever's written. I figure they've done the reason, and I can justify anything. You know, it's like, yeah, okay.
Continuing education, I think it's called.
I think what happened was you were in a police station and this crazy huge guy came in and shot it up, and you're like, I'm in the wrong line of work. I'm gonna go and be a doctor. I'll be completely safe. And then it just, you know. How's it going? Awesome head, by the way.
Thank you.
Nice fez.
Thank you.
Let's get a round of applause for the fez.
So my question is for Michael, Christina, and Robert. In the very first scenes when you guys come out from the future, you're always completely naked. So
I knew somebody was gonna ask this.
So I was just.
By the way, that's my favorite scene when she shows up. Best arrival scene.
So I was just wondering how you guys dealt with that mentally, being completely naked on camera.
It's called money. No. It's a good question. It's a hot question. I had 8 months of training to get my body in the best possible physical shape that I could. I had my body fat down to that of an Olympic athlete. And that was the very, very last day of filming for me, which was perfect. Me too. Yeah. And I remember seeing one of our, and they tried to have what we call a closed set, but we're on Rodeo Drive, so there's people up in the hotel at the end of the street, and all of a sudden I see one of the producers standing there with a walkie, just like, pretending to do something. He's never on set with a walkie, and I totally busted him. But yeah, I got a little funny anecdote there is I was completely naked, and I did get a piece of glass stuck in my toe. Oh. And it actually was embedded there for a number of years. Oh. So I finally got it out by this crazy ex-Vietnam doctor. So that was just a little funny story there. But the mental preparation is, I think every day that I went into the gym, it was the world is going to see me naked.
Peter, did you arrive naked?
No, but I had an interesting story to recount of Arnold, but you should go first.
No, you go.
Okay, well, I remember on the first Terminator, Arnold was shooting at Griffith Park, and we were sitting in his trailer drinking sake and eating sushi, and he was quite nervous about his nude arrival scene. And it was fairly cold for a California night. And they had space heaters on, and he had a coat on, but he was naked underneath it. And I was just standing off to the side holding the coat for him so he could do the scene. And I said, after the first take, I said, man, Arnold, you're gonna freeze your dick off of it. And Arnold looked at me and he said, yeah, Peter, the ball's already gone.
Now. I mean, he's gonna have to come back naked. He's been working hard. Michael, do you have a naked story?
Well, actually, Peter might be able to relate to this because when I came in, there was a stuntman that was used. And this, 30 years of working as an actor, was probably one of the looked like the most painful stunts I'd ever seen before. What they did was they took a couple of ladders and some plywood, and it was a low shot and it was a wide shot of me landing.
Yeah.
And so they had this stuntman on a platform that was about this high, I would say, laying across it nude, of course, with his back towards the camera. And he just had to, on the cement, this was the cement, he just had to kind of scoot off of it and land flat on the cement. And I mean, he was up there pretty high because Jim wanted that wide camera shot so you could see him coming into frame.
Yeah.
And, that fucking cement did not give at all. And if you watch that movie, watch the way that his body reacts when it hits the cement. And, I've never said this before because everybody has always said, oh God, I've had women say to me before, oh, you got such a great ass. I don't think that was me running off. I don't remember being nude on that.
He's taking credit for it for 30 years.
Except for with this one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's probably why in the future after that, everybody just came in and they were just like laying there. Like they were already arrived, they didn't have to fall.
Mine was off camera though, my arrival.
That's right.
Because the cop shows up and then I sort of sneak up behind him. I just remember they got me in really, really great shape and Jim had said, you gotta have a washboard stomach. And it was near the end of filming. It might have been my last scenes. I think it was.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to stay in shape the whole time, which was, a good motivator. Unlike Arnold and Peter, I had my wife with me in the trailer. So I was feeling quite confident by the time. There were space heaters and I had a rope and I was pretty proud of myself.
Nice.
At this 6th Street Bridge down there, there's a train going by, and by God, I just stood there and let them all take a look. What the fuck?
All right, we have time for one last.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Thank you for that question. All right, sir, last question. A lot of pressure. Do not fuck it up.
My question is mainly for Linda. What did you think about the 2 deleted scenes that show you getting the notion to go after Cyberdyne in the first movie, and then the track up where he shows Cyberdyne as you're wheeled away? Were you sad that those were cut, or?
No, not at all, because you realize, there were a lot of scenes that we did, especially in the second one, that didn't make it into the film, but, every confidence that Jim would, what did I say? That Jim understands the momentum of the film and the characters, and there were some really good scenes that were sacrificed just because they, interrupted. Is my boob hanging out? No, but you understand that, really, no matter how much good, you do every day, it's not going to all be in the movie, and so I'm good with it.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks.
We'll take one more. Does someone have you've waited 30 years, all your life, to ask this question? It's pretty crazy because I wrote this down. May 13th to May 15th, 1984 is when the first movie takes place, and that's in So this is a special day. So let's take it out with one really just awesome question. Who's got it? This guy, all the way in the back, has been waiting this whole time. Come on down, sir. Round of applause for this man. If this question is not good, it is going to be super awkward. Moving to unnated. All right, sir, you have the floor. What is your name?
My name is Mitch.
Mitch, take it away. Yay, Mitch!
First off, I want to say thank you all for being part of one of my favorite film franchises of all time, Terminator. Favorite thing, and this actually goes to both Linda and Michael. For Linda in Terminator 2 and in Michael in Terminator 1, y'all have to play, y'all know the truth. Y'all know what actually is going to happen, but nobody believes you. And it's almost to this level of insanity that you have to play, and you both deliver it with this degree of intensity. Especially Michael in the scene where he's doing the interview with Earl, right, and just delivers this 100%, I know the truth, this to zealot level. And what was it like dipping into that intensity for those roles, for both of you?
Good question.
Good job, Mitch!
Well, one of the people ask me a lot if Jim lets you, improv and change lines and change scenes and so on and so forth, like a lot of directors do. And he will if he thinks it'll make his movie better. I mean, he has that kind of confidence that if you come up with an idea that is better than his idea, he'll go with it. You know, there are a lot of directors that are too insecure and they don't want to, like, oh, someone's got a better idea than me. But Jim will do that. And one of my kind of proudest, like, improvs, and Earl, I don't know if you remember me doing this exactly, but basically, when Earl was interviewing me, it was just supposed to be at the table. And I said to Jim at the time, you know, this guy, you know, he's smart, you know, and he's a service guy. He knows he's being watched. And he sees that camera up there in the corner, you know. So this guy that I'm talking to doesn't mean anything. It's those fuckers that mean something, you know. So I asked Jim if I could take my focus off of him and look up at that camera and kind of charge that camera, which turned out to be, I think, a very kind of made it even more intense, you know, and really made that scene come alive. But, you know, as far as the intensity goes overall, you know, it's all just acting. I mean, I've been doing it since I was 10 years old and playing cowboys and Indians. And, you know, if you think of fucking aliens after
Awesome.
For me, I just wanted to one-up Michael. It wasn't easy either, and I love what he did there, and it was a little scary, you know, to that scene, and to just keep upping it, but your point was very true about being the one person in the movie who knows what's coming up, and no one believes her, and I always made a comparison because we're actors and we think really lofty thoughts, and in the first movie, it was sort of, I felt like I was Mary, you know, Mother of Christ, you know, someone who is, you know, if you're going to make these comparisons, someone who is singled out for a future that she really didn't choose and, you know, has to live with a lot of fallout. And the second movie, I was John the Baptist, you know, the voice crying in the wilderness that no one could hear or understand. And that worked for me, just to sort of, you know, to put it on such a larger than life level. And I spent that whole movie thinking, I'm John the Baptist, I'm John the Baptist. And, you know, that made me crazy.
This Terminator franchise made me, I wouldn't be standing up here today doing what I do without it. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I just say simply thank you. Thank you guys for being part of this. Absolutely. And if Target does become Skynet, I would be honored to fight along all of you. We're gonna fight the future war. Can we take a picture together really quick? All right, everybody get together.